Zara, I fixed your organ, at least I think I did. I know it's hard to tell cause it still sounds like shit, but I checked all those resistors and I recapped it. I balanced its transistors, now it's hard to quit. I rectified the voltage with a diode bridge, found every broken wire and resoldered it. I cleaned every dead contact and I lubed every pot. I redesigned the output so it's proper high. Zara, I fixed your organ, at least I hope it's true. Now I cannot wait to give it back to you. I didn't know it'd take 6 months, I gotta see this puppy through. Every time I say it's done, I find another problem new. I fixed your organ, please get it out of my place. My baby left me saying I just don't have no space. I'd rather hear you singing me a song while you play. I'd rather back it up behind you right there on the big stage. See, Zara, I want you to be happy. This organ's always gonna sound a little bit crappy. It's not just cause there's no schematic, no. It's not just cause you came from it. Zara, I still think it's special. Would ever ask me to help you. Zara, with all this work that you granted, hon, you probably could have got a Hammond. Zara, I fixed your organ, this is not an innuendo, nor is there some great crescendo, for the swell pedal only goes so far, so it's more a sort of range, still dynamic, just the same, just a little harder to fully fade away again. I fixed your organ, at least I hope it's true. Not really sure what more I could even do. I know that you deserve the best, but I think this'll see us through. See, we don't even know what this thing was supposed to do. So won't you please, so won't you please, Hi, Eli here of Slow Pony, here to give you a little tour of this pretty rare Estey M101 Travelorgan, transistor organ. I have the top for it over there, and it comes with a pedal as well. This is my victory. I can finally say it, I think. I got this organ playing very nicely. There's no schematic for the organ available, very little information, and all that I could find was this terrible YouTube video of this guy who I found pretty annoying, Maybe he finds himself annoying too, I don't know. But he didn't really have any results, he didn't give me any answers. And of course, I don't have any answers in this video either about how to repair the Estey M101 organ. But as a beginner organ tech and amplifier repair person and electronics specialist, I can just tell you what I've learned and what I know about this organ. So starting back here, oscillator divider network. Each of these oscillators is conveniently labeled, as is much of this organ, with the note which it corresponds to. And then, yeah, the many NPN transistors used all over this. And I didn't replace them all, but I found many bad NPN transistors all through these note cards. And these are used to generate the octaves throughout the keyboard. And so moving on, since there's no schematic, it's hard to understand this organ, but what I learned is it's in part the invention of Harold Bode, whose inventions led to the Moog. I'm lucky to live here in Brattleboro, where the Estey organ factory was, although I think this model may have been manufactured in Philadelphia. And Bode created this oscillator divider network and the transistor synthesizer organ as we know it, which led to all of modern music. So this little guy is what we have to thank. So here we can identify the power supply, again conveniently labeled AC, because we see this danger box that has a transformer in it, a fuse from underneath, and a power cord, which I tested, verified is safe, and put a little tape on for the broken insulation, and we'll continue using the original power cord. I did change the fuse holder and put in the appropriate size fuse. Now this organ's really interesting. It has two outputs, a bass output and an upper output, and the grounds are not the same for the two outputs. And the upper output only is controlled by a volume pedal, swell pedal, which doesn't have the hugest effect. I don't really understand. I think the amps that were made with this may have been of a specific different impedance, because I found the less gain I use, the more thrilling the pedal is, and if a lot of gain is used, the pedal's not very thrilling. So we'll start here. We see a diode bridge rectifier in the upper left-hand corner, a single filter cap, which is kind of old technology. This says transistor, the wire, that's like a power, is that called a power transistor? It acts like a voltage regulator for this circuit as this bias potentiometer. I basically changed out all the electrolytic capacitors on this board, which serves as the bass board and the vibrato board. I replaced a lot with these film caps where possible, and I also replaced every dang NPN transistor, and it helped a lot. This is there's many different parts of the circuit, but here I'll pull out the little lower board here. You can see we have volume, tone in the chord section, low, high, and accent in the bass section, vibrato in the speed section. This plate goes over these pots here, and that is all what's coming through in this section of the board, as well as the power supply, which is sending off power to these rails to run all the oscillator divider networks to many wires, which come around to both keyboards. There's also a switch and a light, and I changed out the electroluminescent panel for LED. And unfortunately, I want to move it around. I'm not super impressed by how it only lights half of the end. But it's a light. So we have the wires with the independent grounds for the upper-lower manual. You can see the keying section with this very fine wire. I don't know if that's palladium or just the end of a resistor or something, but it's kind of like brazed in. It's not soldered in. But I was able to solder a couple that broke, as you can see, and I could tell someone else had soldered them before. But if anyone knows what this other technique is, the brazing looking thing, I am curious to learn. Very neat work. the keying mechanism all seems to be working okay. The lower section, I'm not going to unbolt it right now, but it has a very interesting divider network of diodes everywhere. I also replaced many diodes. I replaced every diode on the board, but this little Zener kept on burning up until I got all the regulate voltages just right. As you can see, these are the original style capacitors, the ones I tested. They were good, but most everything else has been changed. And if you see a carbon composition resistor, it's original. But if you see one of these little carbon film, that's definitely a replacement, which I did an upgrade on. And now this board I identified to be all for these voicing. It routes the bass and chords just via switches, and you can see these wires are pretty delicate and need to be aligned properly. But they routes the bass and chords through switches back to their sections, and then handles all the voicing through here. And I found many drifted resistors in the voicing section, leading to some problems, to some bad notes. I found the cable which controls the upper key bed needed replaced and was giving me a lot of problems. Many of these cables needed to be resoldered, power connections and whatnot. These are all original capacitors. And I did find, I updated all the electrolytics on the board. I left what films tested okay and left resistors that tested okay. I don't actually know what component this is. Can anyone help me? Is it an inductor? And these little capacitors, they test fine. But I was getting some DC noise, I think maybe normal transistor distortion for the gain levels I have, since I changed out these preamp transistors too, and they may not match the gain settings of the original design, because I don't know what that is. There's no record. All I can read is Harold Bodie's diaries and guess on his theories. So I decided to take some creative control and elaborate on his theories. For a moment, I changed out this 220K resistor for a smaller value. It sounded a little better and brought down the volume, but changed the tone in a way I didn't like, so I decided I would go with some distortion in lieu of tone. So I'll demonstrate that distortion. And it only exists in the voices, two voices, the ones that use the highest notes. And then if I just avoid the Latin and R&B voices, everything else sounds a bit cleaner. Then we'll have the lower too, and I'll give a little demo. I really like the lower, so we have to engage. Got to bend this wire back into position. So I really like that bass, and it has these cool controls where you can blend the high tone, the low tone, and the chord. Let's see, I don't have the chords on right now. I have to screw down this board to get it working. But it has like a chord section too. I'll stop it and record a video some other time, but hopefully that just gave a basic explanation of the mechanisms of this organ. It was not playing when I got it. It was not functioning, and just having fixed some organs, I'm mostly interested in Hammonds, but I'm very happy to say this is now totally satisfactory in playing. It's a little bit noisy. It was cheap from the get-go, so I'm thinking about maybe adding some shielding to the light, because I noticed when I put lights near the circuit, it adds noise to the circuit. If you turn it way up, you'll hear like a sound of every note playing at once, but it's the noise signal to noise ratio is sounding great with these 2N5551 transistors. I tried out a couple different kinds of transistors, but I found the 2N5551 transistor is perfect for just about every application of this organ. I also had to do a little bit of tuning on one or two of the oscillator divider networks and just all kinds of basic cleanup. But it was quite an exhausting project. It was many months, much bashing my head. I finally had the last thing narrowed down to the voice circuit after stabilizing the voltage rails and getting everything sounding much better. It is running at a higher voltage than indicated on the board, because you see the board has so many indications, and I don't really know why. Like, it's running above 30 when it says 21, but I suspect it's because it was maybe made to run at 110 and now it's running at 117, so the transformer is similarly increasing the voltage, since the input is higher than the input it was designed for. I could have adjusted it with resistors, but given that I could upgrade every transistor with one that can handle the improved voltage, and I could upgrade the capacitors that could handle the improved voltage, and it sounds great, I see no reason to run it on lower voltage, except that it might lower the transistor distortion. However, I'm pretty sure this transistor distortion is inherent in the quirky and neat design of this historic keyboard, the Estey M101, thanks to Harold Bodie, whose inventions led to the Moog synthesizer and many other cool instruments. Alright, see ya. This has been Eli of Slow Pony. Be well. Check out my music. Bye.